This is Coupled for Life,
your marriage podcast with Jason and Elizabeth Franklin.
sparking communication in intertribal and intercultural marriages.
Love like this, whoever thought it could be? All I know, God had picked you for me.
Welcome to the Coupled for Life Marriage Podcast.
Yes, welcome. We're here to help you spark communication in your marriage.
In your marriage.
We are your hosts,
Elizabeth Wanjiru Franklin.
and I'm Jason Franklin Ochola. We are a couple that has been married for 7 years, and now we're in our 8th year of marriage.
Yes, and we have two children. We have two children. It's good to ask and be sure that we actually have two children. Yes, we do have two children. We are, just welcome into our space, welcome into our lives. We love to have fun.
Yes, we do love to have fun. We are that couple. And we will do our best to ensure that this podcast is not just informative, but you will have fun and laugh in it as well, as we learn from each other. Because you see, someone ever said the best way to retain knowledge is by sharing what you know.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's true. That's
so,
very true.
as we share it and you share your experiences, we will learn as well. Many people expect the marriage talk to be done by people who've been in marriage for over 10 years, 15, 20 years.
But I think we do have something. We've been
Yes.
married for 8 years.
We've been married for 8 years.
8 years is not sufficient.
It is sufficient, but not trying to beat my own drum or our own drum. You see, in other people's eyes, we still are a young couple.
We are still babies.
Yes, in many people's eyes, we'd still be babies.
And
But you see, even babies have knowledge of something.
I agree, but I think there's also something that I, with my 8 years experience in marriage, would learn from someone in their 1 year of marriage.
Yes.
I think it's completely unfair when we think that it's only those who are married for 14 years, 15 years who can speak
Upwards.
to me.
Yes,
Like
and
they're-
tell me something deep
No.
and solid.
Because you see, marriages are different for each person.
For every marriage.
So whatever it is that you're
Yes.
going through in your marriage is different from what I'm going through in my marriage.
Yes.
And so when we
Not
sit
two
down,
marriages are the same.
absolutely. And so when we sit down and we compare notes, there's something that we can each learn.
Yes, and the person who's been married for 1 year can share something with someone who's been married for 10 years.
Absolutely.
Okay? And the person who's been married for 10 years will definitely have something to share with someone who's married for 1 year.
Yeah, so we expect you who is listening to us to actually learn
Yes.
something. If you're
Learn
not learning
something.
something, I don't even understand it. I don't understand it.
Yes, so learn from us as we also learn from you, okay?
Absolutely.
Now, you may ask yourself what country we are from.
We are Kenyan.
We are Kenyan by nationality and by birth.
But we are from different communities and tribes. So I am Kikuyu and my husband is...
I am Luo.
He's from the Luo community.
Yes, we are starting out with this info right from the beginning because it's rather salient for us in our discussions of marriage, and it ties in well with some of the things that my wife and I are doing on the side other than Coupled for Life, marriage podcast, and even being Kenyan. You see, Kenya is diverse in its cultures and tribes,
Yeah.
so we don't all marry from the same tribe.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And as the Coupled for Life marriage podcast, we are also aware that there are couples who've been married in different tribes and different cultures. And
Yes.
as much as marriage already is it has its own ups and downs, its own crazes, I think the aspect of coming from different communities and different tribes and different races brings in a kind of a twist into
Yes.
the whole game.
Yes.
And it's now on you two as the married couple to decide how you're gonna play this, either in your
Yes.
favor
Or against each other.
or against each other.
Yes.
And for us, having been married for the last 8 years, there are things that we've seen, there are things we have heard, there are things that we ourselves have gone through.
Yes.
And we will share with you those, and we would like to also hear from you, from your experiences, so that we can all learn from each other and strengthen each other's marriages.
Exactly. Now, you may ask yourself what Coupled for Life is all about. Coupled for Life is all about marriage. Its purpose, its beauty, its troubles, and everything in between. Okay, I know the married people who are listening to us right now, you know what we are talking about.
Yeah.
And those of you who are single, we're telling you the things we've listed are just some of the things that couples go through in marriage. And it's A to Z and back Z to A. Okay, that's what marriage is all about. And just as my wife has pointed out, marriage has its ups and downs. A standard for all marriages world over. It does not matter whether you are a Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, or someone who doesn't care about a deity. Marriage world over has a standard.
Yeah.
And once you get into marriage, whether you married in church or in a religious ceremony, or you did a traditional ceremony, every marriage is recognized as one, okay? And all of them go through the same thing. Now, when you throw in the different dynamics that every marriage comes with, number one, couples come from different homes. Couples come from different tribes, some from different religions.
Different countries. some
Different
of them.
countries, yes. And everyone comes into marriage with baggage.
Yes.
So when you throw all these things, all these spanners into the works that is marriage, you are building up something else that is unique to you as a couple. Okay?
Absolutely.
The ball game changes uniquely to you. And as a married couple, it is expected of you to stay together. Many people expect couples to stay together. Well, you
It
came
would be
together.
ideal for
It
you
is
to stay
ideal.
together.
Yes, it
we
is
we
ideal.
actually hope that when you said that till death do you part, you actually meant it.
Well, but you remember, not all marriage ceremonies have those exact vows.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
So, like the traditional marriages, they don't say
true.
till death do us part.
But then again, I don't think there's anyone who gets married because they want to end it.
Yes, that's true.
I think each one of us gets married with the intention of growing old with this person, with the intention of going the long haul
Yes.
with this.
Yes. One of the things we like to equate marriage to is the train transport system. There are different parts of the train. There's the engine,
Which
and
is-
everything, which is
It's the head.
it is the head. What makes
the
the
train,
train
move.
move.
Uh-huh.
Okay, many people think the train is just the engine. No, the train is made up of the engine and every other thing it pulls. The carriages, the coaches, all of that combined into one are the train. Okay, so the engine is the one that powers the train, but when the train leaves its station without the coaches or the carriages in the back, it is not a train. It's just an engine moving on the line on its own. Okay? For other coaches and carriages to be part of this engine's journey and be called a train, one thing has to happen, and it is called coupling.
They have to be coupled now.
They have to be coupled. The engine has to be coupled to at least one coach or carriage for it to be called a train. The train is not a must that it has 22 coaches or carriages behind
It
it.
doesn't have to be too long.
It doesn't have to be too long. So long as there's one coach or carriage that's being pulled, that's a train.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Wow. Beautiful.
For the coach to move, it has to be coupled to the engine. Okay.
It doesn't have its own capacity to move.
It
by
doesn't.
itself.
Yes, it doesn't have its own power to
Alright.
move. And once it is coupled from the starting point of the journey all the way to the very end of the journey, the next station, whichever that station is,
So from beginning to its destination.
to its destination. I almost said to its destiny.
Wow.
Because you see, there are many destinations along a train track.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's call them stopovers.
Okay.
There are many stopovers along the train track, but rightly so, as you said, to its destination. The coach or the carriage has to be coupled for the entirety of the journey to the engine so that it gets to the end of its journey. If that coach or carriage is improperly coupled, anything may happen along the way.
That's true.
It may lose its link, and there might be a wreck along the train tracks, and that would mean a disaster for the train or for the carriage or for both, and for anything else along the way. Now, with this scenario in mind, marriage is the same way. Marriage, when you two come together in whichever way, whether it was at a religious institution, or in front of a marriage officer of the government, or in front of your parents, a traditional wedding, whichever way you came together, you are a married couple.
Yes.
And you said you're going to stay together. Now, that act of coming together is called coupling. And you're coupled for the entirety of your journey. We are talking about coupled for life because we will be basing our discussions on biblical principles. Biblically speaking, marriage is a lifelong journey.
It ought to be.
It ought to be a lifelong journey. Yes, there are ups and downs in marriage that may shake a marriage, that may make marriage tough to stay in. You may have to stop over somewhere.
True.
But ultimately and ideally, you ought to get to the end of the journey together, coupled for life. And that's what my wife and I would desire that we share with you as we learn from each other. And despite the troubles that are along the way, it is your response as a couple in marriage that will determine whether you stay together for the entirety of the journey or one of you stays behind at a stopover.
That's very true.
Yes.
That's very true. This podcast will be very conversational. We will be speaking honestly. We will give you genuine responses and having just an honest conversation on everything that is marriage based on biblical principles on life and relationships.
And we will be sharing largely from our experience.
Yes.
And you see, experience does not have to be what an individual has gone through. For example, my wife and I here, it doesn't have to be what we have gone through. You can learn from someone else's experience.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the mistake of your own marriage.
Yes.
I can learn from a mistake that someone else has made.
A mistake or even a good.
Or even a good, such that I'm able to borrow from the good
Yes.
and learn from the bad so
Yes.
that I do not have to go through that path.
So we're really excited to kick this off.
Welcome!
And we'd love to hear from you at the end of every episode. Huh?
Yes, we would love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear your experiences. And if you have any questions or anything that you'd want for us to address in this marriage podcast, do so.
You can reach us on email at coupledforlife@gmail.com. That is coupledforlife@gmail.com.
And life is LYFE.
Yes. You can also find us on social media via the handle at Coupled for Life.
Coupled for Life on Instagram.
Coupled for Life on our Facebook page. We're really happy to have kicked this off.
Thank you for listening, and we want you to subscribe for more content that will enrich your marriage.
And remember, we are here as the Coupled for Life Marriage Podcast to spark communication in your marriage.